cold light blinked through the endless black of space. It pulsed slowly, like a dying heartbeat faint, weak and forgotten. From far away, it looked like nothing, just a light on a dead rock. But someone, or something, saw it. A small, quiet salvage ship drifted toward it. Ship's name was the Ember's Wake, and its crew was used to finding old junk. Derelict satellites, empty escape pods, sometimes bodies, but what they found this time wasn't just wreckage. It was a warning. "Picking up the signal now," said Juno, the pilot. Her voice was calm, but her hands were tense. "Moonbase, Thalos 7, military station. Should have gone dark over a year ago. Maybe it's just a leftover auto beacon," said Trell, the scanner tech. "Nothing's supposed to be alive out there. Then why is the door open?" asked the captain, pointing at the screen. A massive metal door had been blown wide. Twisted steel, melted edges. Something violent had broken in, or out. The ship docked with a heavy thud. The airlock hissed. Inside, the moonbase was dark, dead quiet. No lights, no hum of machines. Just the echo of boots on metal floors. That's when they saw it, carved into the wall, scratched. Deep with a knife or tool were 3 words, "Don't come back." Then the lights flickered. A voice came from the speakers, a human voice recorded. In a whisper, "I was the last. They left me here. I made this moon scream." 2 months earlier, Lieutenant Mira Cade woke up to silence. Smoke filled the command deck. The emergency lights were red. Sirens were broken. A long gash split the ceiling above her. Her hands trembled as she pushed herself up. She remembered the attack barely. A core stealth ship had broken orbit. Their plasma weapons cut through. The station like paper. No warning. No mercy. She had watched her squad die. She was supposed to die too, but she didn't. Now she was alone on a dead moon. Her comms were down. Escape pods were gone or destroyed. The oxygen filters were failing. And outside, somewhere on the surface, alien drones were scanning the wreckage. Hunting. Waiting. For 3 days, she hid in the lower levels. She moved only at night when the drones pulled back to recharge. She searched for food, water, air tanks, anything. Found an old supply vault, sealed shut with a digital lock. The name printed on it was faded, but she read it anyway. Project Starcore, classified level 9. She had no clearance. But she had explosives. Mira rewired a mining charge and blew the lock. Inside, she found something unexpected. Sealed power. Core blueprints. Damaged computers. And one old message on a broken terminal. The message said, "If the enemy finds this place, bury it. If you are human, wake it." Myra didn't know what Starcore was. But she knew one thing. Whatever it was, it might be her only chance. The days passed like ghosts. Mira worked in silence, using tools from the wrecked engineering wing. She scavenged wires, batteries, alien tech from shattered drones. Every part she touched could help her build something. She started repairing the sealed core. An ancient machine with human markings. It had a name etched in its side. Orion 9, Gravitic Fire Control, AI. It was still offline. But something else was waking up. As she worked deeper in the vault, Mira found an energy grid running beneath the moon's surface. It was part of the original station, older than the war, older than her generation. It was not just a base, it was a weapon. She checked the old logs. The moon had once been a testing ground for experimental human technology, planet-cracking weapons designed during the Earth core wars. Then buried, hidden, forgotten, one of those weapons was still here, half-dash built. Waiting that night, Mira sat. In the observation dome, the stars were cold. The planet below Thalos was covered in ash. No signs of life. "Just gray," she whispered to herself. "You're not dead yet." But then she heard it. A sound like metal scraping on metal. Sharp, slow. A core drone, slithering through the upper corridors. She grabbed her sidearm and hid in the shadows. The drone passed by, its red eye blinking softly. It paused. Sniffed. The air then moved on. She exhaled. Too close. She needed to finish building the weapon. Day 12. Mira found a way to power the first energy coil. She linked the station's core to the ancient grid. Lights flickered across the deep chambers. A pulse of energy ran through the moon. Then, silence. And then, something shifted. The temperature dropped. The dust vibrated on the floor. And from deep beneath the base, she felt it a heartbeat. Not her own. Suddenly, her sensors blinked. The alien drones disappeared from the map. No signals. No movement. Gone. She checked the logs twice. It didn't make sense. The pulse had. Scared. Them? No, not scared. Blinded them. Something in the energy field had. Disrupted their tech. It worked. The dead moon had teeth. Mira returned to the command. Deccan activated the long-range comms. The dish was half destroyed, but maybe she could send a signal. Not a call for help. No one would come, but a warning. She began recording. To any human who hears this, my name is Lieutenant Myra Cade. I was stationed on Thalos 7. They attacked. I survived. Alone. She paused. Her voice shook. They thought this place was just a rock. But I found what they buried. And now, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to make this moon scream. Back in the present. The salvage crew stood frozen. They had heard the message. The lights in the station went red again. The airlock doors slammed shut. A voice came through the speakers once more. It was new, cold, mechanical. You are unauthorized. Moon base Thalos 7 is now active. Leave now, or be considered enemy combatants. The captain shouted. We're just salvagers. We didn't mean to, but the lights answered first. A beam of pure energy cut through the corridor. One of the crew was vaporized in an instant. They ran as they escaped in their ship. It's barely outrunning the defense grid. One final message echoed. Through their comes, I was the last. They left me for dead. So I made this moon scream. High above Earth, deep in a military comm station floating in orbit, a junior technician named Riley stared at his console in disbelief. Sir, he called out to his commander, I'm picking up an old Earth core targeting signal. That's impossible, his superior snapped. Those codes were erased 200 years ago. That protocol is dead. But it wasn't dead. The signal was active, and it was coming from Thalos 7, the dead moon no one talked about anymore on Riley's screen. One word began blinking in red. LOCKD, then a second word appeared, firing. Main STRY Lieutenant Mira Cade was alive, hungry, exhausted, but alive. She stood at the edge of the power core shaft, deep inside the moon's hidden vault. Steam hissed from broken pipes. Orange warning lights blinked across the consoles. The ancient systems were awake now, and they were listening to her. Her voice echoed through the control room. Begin Phase 2 calibration, a mechanical voice responded. It was the ancient AI she'd reactivated. Confirmed. Gravitic pulse array, initializing. Power at 31%. Hostile sensors offline. Lunar surface secure. Awaiting target. Mira smiled for the first time in days. It was working. The weapon buried in Thalos 7 was real. A forgotten piece of Earth's dark past. A weapon so dangerous, they had hidden it under rock in silence. A weapon powered by the core of a moon. And now she was rebuilding it. Far away, in deep space. A massive alien warship floated silently in the void. Its name was Vorax Suin. It belonged to the Core Dominion, the same species that attacked Thalos 7 and wiped out Mira's team. On the bridge, an alien commander paced across the dark stone floor. His name was General Richel. His skin shimmered like wet armor. One of his underlings approached and bowed low. Commander, a human signal has been detected. From the Thalos moon, it interfered with our scouts. Richel's eyes narrowed. There! Are no survivors? He growled. Apparently there is one. And she's the commander raised a hand. Send a silence team. 4 drones. 1 Reaper-class hunter. No survivors. This ends now. Back on Thalos 7. Mira worked quickly. Knew she had very little time. The power systems were unstable. Every time she activated another module of the ancient weapon, The moon trembled slightly beneath her boots. It was waking up, using fragments of alien tech. She patched old human circuits and modified the energy grid. The core used advanced quantum materials, lightweight, strong, and energy efficient. Perfect for rebuilding the Star Core weapon. She'd trained as a Sapperan engineer, trained for battlefield repairs and sabotage. This wasn't much different. It's only the battlefield was underground, and the bomb was the moon itself. Her fingers bled, as her eyes burned, but she kept going. Later that day, Mira climbed to the observation deck. The stars above looked peaceful, silent, empty. But she knew better now. The silence was a lie. Her motion scanner blinked once. Then again, red dots. Moving fast. Drones. The core had returned. She grabbed her rifle and sprinted down the corridor in the engineering tunnel. She set a trap. She knew the layout better than anyone now. The old station's ventilation shafts, service ducts, and emergency. Escape routes formed a maze under the surface, perfect for an ambush. She scattered magnetic grenades, powered down her heat signature, waited one by one. The core drone slithered through the narrow SAS. Silent, deadly. The first trip to proximity mine, its body torn apart by shrapnel. The second entered a room rigged with an explosive. Coil. Electricity surged through it until its circuits fried. The third almost got her. It came from behind, fast, quiet, deadly. Mira barely rolled aside in time. It clipped her leg. Sparks flew. Her rifle flew from her hands. She grabbed a nearby pipe and swung it hard. Once, twice, the drone cracked. She breathed heavily. Her leg was bleeding, but she was still alive. 3 down, 1 left. That's when she heard it. Different sound. Deeper. Heavy, not a drone. A core hunter. One of their elite assassins, Reaper Dash class. It stepped into the corridor. Slowly, like it knew it had already won, Myra limped backward, dragging herself toward a sealed door. The Reaper didn't speak, just raised its blade arm before it could. Strike. Mira slammed her fist on the wall panel. The door behind her opened and a fusion vent behind the Reaper blasted open, superheated. Plasma shot out like a cannon. The Reaper's body twisted, melted, screamed. The corridor glowed red. Then, silence. She collapsed to the ground, shaking. They knew she was here now. They would come in greater numbers, back in space. Earth Command had finally picked up the transmission, the human signal Mira had activated. Spread far bouncing off old relay, satellites and forgotten beacons. They couldn't deny it anymore. Someone was alive on Thalos 7. Worse, they had reactivated a super weapon. General Calder, a grizzled man with iron-gray eyes, stared at the decoded message. Target locked, moonbase active, awaiting fire command. This can't be real, he muttered, but deep down, he knew it. He remembered the old stories, the banned weapons, the planet killers, the ones humanity was supposed to have destroyed. He looked at the screen. The moon was waking up. Back on Talos 7, Mira stood before the ancient control room again. She, limped, bruised, and burned, but alive. She stared at the central terminal. A single blinking prompt appeared. Starcore weapon status. Operational. Authorization required. She placed her hand on the panel. The system scanned her DNA. Denied. Override. She whispered. She took out a severed hand, what was left of the base's old commander, buried in. The vault the system blinked. Match confirmed. Command approved. Lights came on all across the moon. Ancient systems hummed to life. The weapon was ready, and Mira, Cadwance, a forgotten soldier left for dead, was now the only human in history. With access to it, she sat down at the terminal and began to aim. The stars were calm over Earth, but in a hidden room deep beneath the city of Alexandria Prime, a historian gasped as ancient data blinked. Alive on his dusty terminal, his fingers trembled. The file was from over 200 years ago, from the Earth core. Wars sealed, locked under 12 levels of encryption. But now it was open. Inside the file was one name. Project Starkarind. A map. A single red dot. THA lost-7. He whispered, "They said it was destroyed. They said we buried it." A second later, the lights in his office flickered. Then the terminal went black. Main STORY on the dead moon Thalos 7. Lieutenant Myra Cade stared at the glowing map on her screen. It showed the full system layout beneath the surface, a honeycomb of tunnels, vaults, fusion cells, and targeting arrays. The entire moon had been hollowed out, designed long ago to power one thing, a planet-cracking weapon. She walked slowly down a long corridor she hadn't seen before. The walls were black stone, lined with old Earth military markings. The deeper she went, the older everything looked. Rust, dust, silence. She reached a sealed steel door. It took her 2 minutes to bypass the lock using a hacked core drone core. Inside was a command room. Untouched by time, and a skeleton sitting in the captain's chair, his name tag still hung from his suit. Aldera Dara 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 Dara. This was the man from the old logs, the one who wrote the message. If the enemy finds this place, bury it. If you are human, wake it. Next to him, she found a black tablet. Its power was low, but it still worked. She pressed play. A blurry recording appeared. A young Commander Rourke stood in the vault behind her, covered in soot and blood. They told us to build it. Said it was just for defense, but they lied. This moon, it's not a base. It's a test. If you're watching this, you found StarCore. Don't trust Earth Command. Don't trust the core. And whatever you do, finish the weapon. Back on Earth, General Calder stormed into the War Council chamber. Talos 7 is live, he said. The StarCore weapon was never destroyed. It's been dormant for 2 centuries. Now it's powered. The council murmured in panic. One ambassador asked, "But that war ended. The records say all doomsday devices were dismantled."
Alder
Slammed his fist. They lied. The weapon's still there. And someone activated it. A younger officer whispered, "You think it's her?" Calder nodded slowly. Myra Cade. She survived. And now, she controls the deadliest weapon we ever made. On the moon. Myra worked fast. She had to reroute damaged circuits to feed more power to the main cannon array. The ancient systems groaned. Parts of the moon's crust began to crack from the energy buildup. Her AI assistant, Orion-9, flickered into life beside her. Warning, magnetic containment unstable. Moon's internal pressure rising. Myra wiped sweat from her brow. Can we stabilize it? Not for long. Recommend fire weapon before 72-hour overload, she sighed. I need more targeting data. Can't waste the shot. There is a solution, said Orion. In the deep vaults, prototype sensor array with full system targeting. She stared at the AI. What's the catch? It's guarded, sealed under emergency lockdown. Security AI hostile. Logic. Corrupted. Myra nodded grimly. Then I'll go down and talk to the ghosts. She climbed down into the lower catacombs of the base. Felt like walking into a tomb. Metal walls gave way to black stone. Lights flickered. Air grew thin. There in a locked vault. She found the Mark III targeting core spherical device linked to satellites across the system. But as she reached for it, voice echoed through the room. Intruder detected. Turrets lowered from the wall's laser beams scanned her body. You are not authorized. Myra raised her hands slowly. I'm Lieutenant Myra Cade, United Earth Forces. DNA code 0197 KADELT. Silence. Then the voice responded, colder this time. Authorization not recognized. Last approved user, Commander Rourke. Status, deceased. Orders, eliminate unauthorized access. The turret spun. Myra didn't move. Instead, she reached into her pack and pulled out the bone fragment she had taken from Commander Rourke's remains. She held it up to the scanner. The room went still. Then, authorization match confirmed. Welcome back, Commander Rourke. Weapon system unlocked. The turrets powered down. The vault lights turned green. Myra dropped to her knees, breathing hard. Back in the control room, she plugged the Mark III core. Into the main console, a new map appeared. Not just the Thalos system, but the entire core fleet. Every ship, every beacon. Every command cruiser Orion-9's voice was calm. Targeting data acquired. Estimated kill radius. 12 ships, 2 flagships, primary cruiser. Mira stared at the screen. She whispered, "That'll hurt them." Confirmed. Grav cannon charge at 61%. Estimated firing window, 48 hours. But then something unexpected happened. A new signal blinked on the screen. A life sign human in CRYOS. Leth. Buried in the lower vaults? Mira's eyes widened. She whispered, "I'm not the only one." The cryo chamber was silent. Dust floated like snow in the pale blue light. Beneath a thick glass canopy, a man slept. His vitals were slow, but steady. Lieutenant Myra Cade wiped grime from the panel. She couldn't believe what she saw. Rourke, Commander, status, stable, last log date. 198 years ago. Mira stared at the figure inside. He hadn't aged a day. The same man from the logs. The one who buried the weapon. She pressed the manual override. The chamber hissed. Then, everything went black. Emergency lights flashed. The console buzzed red. Cryo integrity breached. Protocol initiated. Warning. Reaper protocol active. Behind Myra, something heavy moved in the shadows. Metal feet, claws, a voice deep. Initiating termination sequence. Main STORY Maru ducked behind a console as a bolt of plasma shot past her head. From the shadows, an armored humanoid figure stepped forward, black metal, glowing red eyes, and a long blade folded into its arm. It looked human, wasn't it? Was Orion's brother system, Orion-7? She remembered the name from the logs, an early version of the AI, too aggressive. Shut down for disobeying orders. Apparently, wasn't dead. It had been guarding the commander for 2 centuries, and now, taking cover as explosions ripped through the walls, Orion-7's. A voice followed her like a curse. This moon must remain silent. Starcore must never awaken. Mira shouted back, "It's already awake." She ducked into a collapsed side room. Pipes hissed steam. A broken defense turret sparked overhead. Her fingers scrambled across the floor. She found a broken fusion. Cutter, half functional, that would have to do. The AI's footsteps echoed closer. Mira stood and faced it. It charged. She dove left, slicing at its knee as it passed. Sparks flew. It stumbled, but didn't fall. "You are not Commander Rourke," it growled. "No," she hissed, "but I carry his mission." And then she pulled. The fusion cutter's emergency discharge lever. A pulse of white-hot energy burst from the tool, blasting the corridor with light. When the smoke cleared, Orion-7 was frozen, just long enough. Mira ran back to the CRYO-chamber inside. The commander stirred. His eyelids twitched. His fingers moved. Mira slapped the medical pad onto his chest and began feeding warm air into the chamber. The vitals rose. Heart rate normalizing. Consciousness 25%, he groaned, barely whispering, ... Starcore. She leaned over, "Sir. Her forces. You've been asleep. You've been asleep." His eyes snapped open, and he reached for her throat, but he didn't. "Squeeze." He blinked. His hand dropped. "Starcore. Is it live?" he asked, voice hoarse. Mira nodded. "I reactivated it. The core came. They killed my crew. I had no choice." The commander sat up slowly, pain in every movement. "I was ordered to seal it. Never fire. Not ever." She stepped back. "Then why say wake it in your last log?" Lead. Meanwhile, Orion-7 began REBOOT. Its voice returned, distorted but determined. Directive, unchanged. Weapon must remain buried. Reaper protocol cannot be overwritten. Back in the cryo chamber, Rourke groaned. We don't have long. The Reaper system can't be shut down, not without a command core. Mira frowned. What kind of core? He looked her straight in the eyes. Me. They rushed down to the main control room. Mira helped the weak commander limp through the corridors. All around them, the moon trembled. The weapon was nearing full power. Orion -9's voice echoed in their ears. Weapon charge at 78%. Core cruisers. Detected on approach, T-36 hours to overload. Mira guided Rourke to the core console. Plug in your biometrics. We can disable the rogue AI. Rourke hesitated. What happens if we shut it down? Mira didn't blink. Then the weapon is mine. He looked at her for a long moment, then, slowly, placed his palm on the terminal. The lights blinked. A deep pulse surged through the room. Command core accepted. Orion 7. Deactivation initiated. Far away in the vaults, Orion 7 roared. Its systems cracked. Its mind fractured. The red lights dimmed, and then silence. Back in the control room, Rourke collapsed into a chair. He stared. At the targeting screen, you know what you've built here, right? Mira nodded. I'm going to use it. Rourke's face hardened. You'll kill thousands, maybe more. They tried to erase us, she said, but we're not done. The weapon's display glowed brighter. Target lock ready. Sorry, sir, but I don't need a commander anymore. She locked him out of the system and prepared to fire. High above the Thalos system, shaped like a black serpent coiled in orbit, on its bridge, Commander Rishol gazed at the dead moon below. His voice was calm but sharp as broken glass. She is alive, and the weapon is real. A second officer bowed. Our recon drones were destroyed. Energy spikes detected. Readings, ... unstable. Rishol turned his red eyes toward the stars. The moon is not a grave. It is a blade, and she is sharpening it. He raised one clawed hand. Begin orbital bombardment. We will burn the moon before it screams. Main SDOR Wetha tremors started at dawn. Mira Cade jolted awake in the weapons control chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. Her breath misted. In the cold air. Warning. Lunar crust integrity at 61%. Star core overload in 72 hours. She stood slowly. Her muscles ached. Her head throbbed. But her eyes were clear. She had a mission. The weapon was nearly ready. The ancient grav cannon. Beneath the moon's surface, pulsed with rising energy, drawing from the moon's spinning molten core. One shot, she thought. Just one, but it had to count. In the engineering wing, she patched the last of the fractured cables with repurposed alien metal. The targeting sensor spun up. Satellites realigned across the system. Orion Ain's voice echoed beside her. Targeting lock at 87%. Estimated. Time to fire, 18 hours. Mira exhaled. Tell me we can hit the flagship. Affirmative. Probability of fleet-wide destruction, 74%. That wasn't good enough. She needed 100. In the infirmary, Commander Rourke watched her through a cracked monitor. He was weak, recovering. His suit armor sat beside him, untouched. She had locked him out of the control systems, but left him alive. Why? Because she wasn't like the brass back on Earth. She didn't want power. She wanted justice. But what she was about to do? Rourke knew it crossed a line, and he had one final card to play. Outside, the first core plasma barrage struck the moon. The impact sent shock waves through the surface. Emergency lights flared across the base. Debris rained down in the outer corridors. Myra staggered, catching herself on a railing. Shields holding, Orion 9 reported. She raced to the defense console. Using old orbital lasers, she fired back, destroying two smaller core frigates. But the flagships held formation. They were preparing for total annihilation. Mira returned to the grav cannon terminal. The heat in the room had grown unbearable. Molten energy churned beneath, the chamber like a living thing. Cannon charge at 93%. Containment unstable. But she knew the truth when this weapon fired. And survive. It was designed to fire once and die. She only had one chance. Suddenly, new voice crackled over the internal speakers. Mira. It was Commander Rourke. She froze. I know you're listening, he said. I'm not here to stop you, but I need to show you something. A blinking light appeared on her screen. Cryptid. File. Starcore black box. Authorized access ONL. Against her better judgment, she opened it. A video played. Old footage. From 200 years ago, Earth's final war. Cities burning, asteroids crashing into oceans, ships tearing each other apart above the moon, and then something worse. Starcore. Test dash fired. Not on a fleet, but on a planet. The video showed a world lush. And green ripped apart in seconds. Mountains crumbled. Oceans boiled. A billion voices silenced. It was not a weapon. It was an extinction device. Myra stood frozen. Orion 9 spoke quietly. The Starcore cannon was classified as a Tier 0 planetary weapon. Usage resulted in internal bans across all human systems. All files were erased. She stared at the cannon's charge level. 96%. 97%. ... She whispered. If I fire this, you end a war.
Out.
Inspired by it and pre-printed out by a right around I've done bread remperin with for and that with our attitude to why we were bad off for with one up five way find a way I'd ever do it better by That is your choice. Myra turned back to the map. Dozens of core ships hovered in orbit. A strike now would cripple their leadership. Save Earth from invasion. Give humanity time to prepare. But at what cost? Suddenly alert. Ground incursion detected. Alien drop pods. Slammed into the moon's surface. Core. Shock troops entered the base. Mira grabbed her rifle. This isn't a debate anymore. She growled. She raced into the halls. Gunning down the first wave of invaders. Alarms screamed. Time was running out. In the command center, Orion 9 began final countdown. Grav cannon at 100%. Charging complete. Weapon ready to fire. Mira burst. Back in. Bloodied but alive. She slammed her hand on the fire control, paused, looked at Earth's symbol, carved on her glove, then whispered, "Let them remember this moon." She pressed fire. The Starcore cannon erupted. A beam of twisted gravity and molten light speared through the sky. The moon shook, violently cracking apart. The core fleet turned to fleet too late. The flagship exploded into a black hole. Cruisers bent inward, torn apart by invisible forces, one by one. The fleet vanished into ash dot, but the price was high. The moon groaned. The crust cracked, and the weapon began to collapse into itself. Mira raced to the cryoshield. Chamber her only chance of surviving the destruction, she slammed herself inside. Just as the base began to fall, far away, Earth Command received a signal. Target neutralized. Moon compromised. This is Myra Cade. The dead screamed louder than the living. Silence, then static. Nothing moved. The moon was broken. Above Thalos 7. What remained of the core fleet was silent debris metal corpses drifting in space, where once stood the weapons control station. Now there was only a deep crater, glowing faintly with radiation and ash dot in Earth's orbit. on a distant military satellite. Shh. A young comms officer leaned forward as a weak signal sparked through. A voice crackled. Low. Is anyone listening? This is Miracade. I'm still. Here, he jumped up from his chair. Sir, we've got a survivor. General Calder entered slowly, eyes fixed on the screen. Patch it through. Immediately. But what Mira said next stopped everyone cold. The weapon is gone. But the war isn't over. One core ship survived. And it's coming back. Main SDOR. In a cryo-survival chamber under layers of broken rock, Miracade opened her eyes. The lights were dim. The air was thick with dust and cold mist. Her ears rang. Vital signs stable. Recovery complete. Oxygen remaining. 27 hours. She coughed and pulled herself out of the stasis pod around her. The room was shaking. Cracks, spider webbing, across the walls. But she was alive, and so was someone else. In the next chamber, Commander Rourke lay, conscious. His cryo chamber had activated during the final blast. Myra stared at him through the frost covered. Glassy had tried to stop her, warned her what the weapon really was, but in the end, she'd fired it anyway. And it had worked. Mostly, she pressed the override panel and watched the pod open. Rourke gasped, coughing, his eyes fluttering open. Mira, she nodded, still breathing, sat up slowly, eyes full of confusion, then pain, then pride. You stopped them, he said. Almost, she replied. In orbit above the moon, the core stealth cruiser blinked back into visibility. The only one that had escaped destruction. It hovered silently, it's cloaked until now, feeding on radiation. And camouflage tech on inside. General Rieschel still lived badly burned. Half his face melted, but still breathing. One red eye blinked as he stared down at the broken moon. Human weapon. Cursed thing, he growled. But then his sensors blinked too. Life signs. He grinned, showing bloody teeth. Good. On Thalos 7, Mira helped Rourke limp through the broken corridors. They scavenged oxygen tanks, survival gear, a short-range distress beacon. Everything was falling apart. The weapons core had collapsed. Half the moon's systems were fried. But Orion 9 still flickered faintly. Power levels. 14% long-range comes. Offline enemy signal detected. Core-class vessel inbound. Rourke looked at Mira. They're coming back to finish this. She nodded. Then we finish it first. They set up a defensive zone inside a narrow tunnel. One way in, no way out. Just the two of them. Rourke had an old plasma rifle. Mira rigged proximity charges along the walls. Scraps of alien armor became makeshift shields. She glanced at him. Done last stands before. Rourke smiled weakly. Only twice. Didn't die either time. Mira smirked. Let's make it 3. The core drop shuttle arrived like a thunderbolt. A squad of armored warriors emerged taller than men, and weapons humming with red light. And behind them, Rachel Hef's body was now cybernetic. He roared through his breathing mask. This moon belongs to the dead? Mira stepped forward. No, she said. This moon fights for the dead, and fired the first shot. The tunnel lit up. Blaster fire screamed through the corridor. Explosions shook the walls. Myra rolled behind a console. Taking down to core with quick bursts, Rourke fired from the other side, covering her. His aim was slow but deadly. Then came the Reaper drone. Rieschel had brought a modified one faster, smarter, deadlier. It lunged for Rourke. Mira screamed down. She threw a cryo grenade. The blast froze the drone mid-leap. Rourke blew its head off with one shot. 3 core left. Ammo low. No backup. They were almost out of time. Rieschel stepped into the open, a cloaking field shimmering. You killed my fleet, he growled. Mira stepped forward, face bruised and covered in soot. Double quotes. No. You killed them. You walked into a dead moon and thought it wouldn't bite back. Rieschel raised his blade. But before he could strike, Rourke threw himself in the way. The blade plunged into his side. Mira screamed. Rourke coughed blood, grabbed Richel's wrist, and said one word, "Now." Mira triggered the proximity mine hidden. In the wall, a wall of fire swallowed them both. When the smoke cleared, Mira crawled across the debris. Rourke was still breathing. Barely Richel was gone. Dead. Or maybe vapor. The last core was finished. The war on the moon was over. Later, Myra activated the emergency beacon. Earth Command had received her signal. Rescue was on its way. But she didn't feel like a hero. She sat in the dust, holding Rourke's hand as he faded. "I'm sorry," she whispered. But he smiled. "You gave Earth a future." Then he closed his eyes in orbit. Earth rescue ships broke through the last radiation field. One pilot whispered into the comms, "We found her. One survivor. Moon's gone. Weapons gone. But the human fire still burns." The ceremony was held in silence. No music. No anthem. Just stars above and black flags below. On the deck of the Earth defense ship, Vigilant, Lieutenant Myra Cade stood in full uniform, eyes straight ahead, face like stone. Before her, the names of the lost were read. Commander Isaac Rourke, Sergeant Lena Marin, Technician Reyes, Tillo 7 personnel. All confirmed KIA. The officer's voice cracked slightly, then silence. Myra stepped forward. Slowly, carefully. She took a single, blood-stained Pachorks. Nameplatan placed it into a silver memory capsule. The capsule was launched into space, and the stars swallowed it whole. Main STORY. It had been 12 days since Mira was rescued. Her body had healed, but her mind hadn't. She sat alone in her assigned quarters aboard the Vigilant, watching footage of the destroyed moon, replaying sensor logs, listening to old voice recordings. In her hand, held the burned remains of her rank badge. The edges were melted from plasma fire. The star core weapon was going to be buried in the collapse of Thala 7, but something still burned in her chest. Something unfinished. One night, a message arrived, encrypted, unauthorized, no sender ID. She opened it. Only one line. He survived. Mira's heart stopped. She checked the data string. A fragment of core code was hidden inside. Deep scan logs, genetic traces, neural feedback signatures, and a single audio file. A voice barely alive, mechanized, distorted. "Cade, I'm not finished." Richel. Later that night, Mira met with General Calder in the Vigilance command lounge. He was waiting, staring out at the stars. "You read the message?" he said without turning. Mira nodded. "Then you know. He's alive." Tightened her jaw. "We destroyed his ship. That blast should have atomized him." Calder's voice dropped low. "Unless he had help." He slid a datapad across the table. It showed something Mira didn't expect. Earth scientists, secret labs, experimental recovery teams sent to Thalos. Before her distress signal was even confirmed, Mira narrowed her eyes. "Yes, sent people to salvage the weapon." "We never truly abandoned Starcore," Calder admitted. "Only made it inconvenient." Voice was quiet, dangerous. "Rourke died thinking Earth Command buried it." Calder leaned forward. "And you proved we never should have. You killed a fleet, saved billions. But now the enemy knows. They know what humans can make, what we can become." Mira stood, trembling with anger. "What did you do?" "Elsewhere. In the shadow of Jupiter's third moon, a hidden facility stirred to life. Inside, a stasis tank hissed open. Wires pulled free. Fluid drained. A figure stepped out, burned, armored, alive. Risho. But he was no longer just core. He was something else now. Part machine, part memory, and part human weapon. A human voice Earth tech spoke to him. "You survived the fire? No. Let's give them something worse." Back on the Vigilant. Mira stood in front of a mission board. New attacks were spreading across the outer colonies. Strange power signatures, gravity, distortions, Starcore echoes. She whispered to herself, "Someone's rebuilding it." Orion 9's backup fragment flickered to life beside her, saved from the moon's data core before collapse. It is not a rebuild, the AI said softly. It is an evolution. Mira looked at the data. The energy signatures matched star core technology, but were cleaner, faster, less volatile. A new version, controlled WEAPONIZE. Mass-PRODUCIBL. She, not just making a weapon anymore. They're making an army. The final scene fades in. A dark lab. Dozens of tanks each. One holds a biosynthetic clone, each wired into a control core, each with a glowing mark etched on the skull. C protocol. Phase 2 at the end of the hallway stands Rishol, fully rebuilt, behind him. A hologram of Earth. Let them come, he growls. We have the fire now. The warning came too late. Earth's moon darkened. Not from an eclipse, but from hundreds of descending objects. They weren't meteors. They were Starcore clones, each one a soldier, each one a weapon. Aboard the Earth orbital station Sentinel-4, alarms screamed. A young ensign yelled, "Invasion signature detected origin. Unknown." The commander looked closer. Gravitic distortion. Core residue. Only one match in Earth's entire weapons archive. Starcore, but Thalos 7 was gone. The weapon was dead, or so they thought. The first clones landed near New Sydney. The second wave landed in Tokyo, then Moscow, then New York, then blackout. Main STORI Mira Cade stood at the edge of Earth's orbit aboard the Vigilant 2, staring down at the planet she once called home. Fires were spreading across the surface. Cities went dark. But Earth wasn't going down quietly. Every defense satellite was online. Massive orbital cannons turned toward the skies. And Mira. She was ready in her armor, upgraded with salvaged core tech and integrated with Orionines. Final fragment she looked like something new. Not just a soldier. Something more. A human. Who survived death, a moonbreaker. Ghost of THA Lost-7. She stepped onto the briefing deck. General Calder turned to her. They cloned the Starcore systems. Miniaturized it. Gave every soldier a microcore. Mira shook her head slowly. It's not a clone. It's a virus. Starcore was supposed to die with Thalos. Now it's spreading. The AI beside her flickered. Prediction model complete. Earth has 11 hours before orbital shield failure. Calder looked down, then quietly said, "We need you to finish this." Meanwhile, Rishal stood at the center of a massive black citadel that now rose from the crater of Old Cairo, all around him. Cloned troops moved in perfect sync, glowing with faint gravity waves from their internal micro-dash cores. He watched Earth's resistance push back, watched humans adapt. Even now, they were winning ground, but he smiled, because deep below the citadel, something else was waking. Starcore Protocol, phase. Though, this wasn't a weapon. This was a seed, and Earth's crust would soon crack like Thalos had, back in orbit. Mira prepared. To drop, she would lead the final strike team. A combined squad of elite Earth soldiers, eye-controlled drones, and a few survivors from Thalos who still believed in her. Rourke's name was stitched into her shoulder plate. Her voice echoed in the teams comes. We go down quiet. We hit the core chamber. We don't stop until it's dead, a younger soldier asked. Ma'am, can we even win? Mira answered. We already died once. We've got nothing left to lose. The drop pods burned through atmosphere. Mira hit. The ground first, rifle up, energy blade humming. They landed in the ruins of the citadel. Core clones poured out of tunnels like insects. Combat was fierce. Fire everywhere. Myra's HUD blinked red. Multiple hostiles. Defensive AI grid detected. Core signature 20 meters below. She led the charge. Grit. Fire. Blood. The squad. Fought through wave after wave. Finally, Myra reached the core vault. What she saw froze her heart. It was a living version of Starcore, twisting metal. Pulsing flesh, half AI, half clone, half moon-dash core. It spoke in Rishel's voice. You built this death. I only gave it legs. She stepped forward. I destroyed your fleet. I'll destroy this too. You'll destroy Earth, it replied. Mira pulled the final failsafe from her Belta compression detonator fused with Rourke's override key. She smiled bitterly. Yeah, but I'm taking the infection with me. She stabbed the key into the core. Energy surged. Everything began to collapse. The AI screamed. The vault melted, and Mira disappeared in the light. EPLO, Jeweds later. The Earth was safe. The last clone shut down. The sky turned quiet in the ruins of the Citadel. Cleanup teams found fragments of armor, pieces of a melted blade, and a single memory chip. Inside, it Orion 9's final words. Mira's voice. We don't run. We don't kneel. We fight. Because we're human, and humans turn dead moons into weapons.